Yo, what's happening, y'all? It's your man Valentine, baby. Coming from on the grind. This your home edition, y'all. And yesterday, I know we talked about Drew Brees and Roger Goodell and what they needed to do. So they know what I said, and it's all true. So they just need to step up and make the changes because it doesn't matter what you said. It's now how you move forward. You know what I mean? So moving forward means an apology to Colin Kaepernick is a good thing. That's a good start. You know what I mean? Roger Goodell, you know how I mean. You know how I'm talking, what I'm talking about. So, and all the other players who were kneeling. So, anyway. And then I was talking about, the implicit bias and the fact that it exists. I knew there was a bias that existed, but implicit bias is a little different, y'all. And I mean, implicit is the social cognition, right? And then you have the implicit bias. And implicit bias means the attitudes and stereotypes that can affect you in the understanding of decisions and actions in an unconscious manner. Believe me, I had to look it up because there's a dude. I think his name is I forgot his name, but there's something out there about Project Implicity, and so I can look that one up. But I mean, this stuff exists, and when I started thinking about it, I'm like, there must have been certain things that I was doing or certain things that made people feel, I don't know what they were thinking, but I know I've had certain situations where I've been walking on the street and there was a lady coming towards me and she grabbed her purse. I mean, at that time I had a hoodie on and a hat and had my hands in my pocket. And so I was walking, she's about 5 feet away, and she grabbed her purse, looking at me, and clutched her purse right next to her, and was kind of slumping down to slowly walk past me like I was going to jack her up. You know what I mean? And I was like, what is wrong with her? And, so you make no mind of those things, so you move on, right? And then it happened again. Now I was at the grocery store, and I was walking to my car, and there's a woman. Next thing I know, I'm walking in front of this car, and I hear the locks go down, the alarm goes off, and there's a woman in her car holding onto her steering wheel, looking at me with bright eyes, like I was getting ready to come and jack her car. And I'm walking to my car, and I'm looking back at her, and thinking, what is wrong with this woman? And then I got into my car, and rolled up in front of her, opened my door, and said, hey, I don't need to have your car. I have my own. And then I kind of, I just rolled off and not really thought anything of it. But here we are today. And, the bias lives everywhere, man, because you go into a restaurant, they may think you can't pay for the food. And certain people, certain teachers at school shouldn't have a bias, but they do. And in certain classrooms, you have a black person or a white person, they may think that white person is a lot smarter than the black person. You know what I mean? So those biases, you have to stop. Even if you go for a job, let's say there's a dude who has all the prerequisites on his resume, and his name is George White, but yet he walks into the room and he's a black guy named George White. So the people that are in the room might, the room deflates because they're looking for this white dude to come through the door. And here comes this black dude. So that bias is there too. And even at my job. And I know there's people who have this bias of saying certain things about certain people when you tell them something. Because I've told people that this person or so-and-so is a racist for certain things that they've said to me. And they will give this person the benefit of the doubt because he's white. And they will also say, you know what? Because he's old. And I'm like, being old does not make you, it doesn't take you away from being a racist. So these are these things that can happen, yo. And it's there. So we've got to make that effort to change. You know what I mean? We've got to change our biases, man. We can't have an implicit bias out there anymore. You know what I mean? So we have to, how do you address this? So you now have to focus on seeing people as individuals, right? And then you got to work on changing the attitudes and stereotypes. And you have to just adjust your perspectives, man. Because if you don't, what happened to George Floyd is going to keep on happening. And it continues to happen because of this. So we have to truly make change. You know what I mean? We can't have these biases. We can't have these attitudes or stereotypes. You know what I mean? I don't want that bullseye on my body. I don't want to be a statistic. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that. I don't want anybody who's a black youth or a young black woman growing up to be that. We want the bullseye to come off. We want to be an even playing field. That's what we want. And to get the police reform, the social reform, the community reform, hey, it has to happen because we got to stop using the force. You can't be using that much force on someone to take somebody down, or any types of the chokehold, the knee on the neck. That all has to go. You know what I mean? It's amazing, but it is there. And for all white folks that are out there, black folks that are out there, we need to change that, man. We need to come together and do something about it. So this way we don't continuously have these things keep happening. People getting shot for no reason or getting killed for no reason. You know what I mean? So we need to handle it. Keep marching. Keep protesting, but protest peacefully. And remember that we still going through a pandemic, y'all. So you got to make sure you wear a mask and try to social distance the best you can. But, man, remember this, y'all. Implicit bias, man. You got to look in the mirror. Change is going to come. You understand what I'm saying? But change comes from yourself wanting to make change. Don't just say you're going to do it and not do it. You feel what I'm saying? Yo. It's your man Valentine, baby. If you think it's your time to shine, you need to get on the grind with your man Valentine.